Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce provides a little clarity on the quarterback position for the Silver and Black. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for November 26, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you, whether you're checking us out wherever you find your favorite podcast or if you're checking us out on YouTube. Either way is good by us. We appreciate it. If you're getting us for 2 minutes, 22 minutes, 42 minutes, whatever the case may be, all time is always appreciated. So shout you out. Shout out my man Ari, who makes sure that we're up on YouTube each and every day. You can check him out on Twitter if you want to shout him out at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254, and the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line if you want to be a part of the show, 707-654-4693. As a matter of fact, we have your calls and texts coming up as we close out the show today. Plenty of feedback based off the game on Sunday, what the Raiders are doing moving forward, especially since they've got a game on Friday, a short week, Black Friday, in Kansas City, Week 13 action, Arrowhead Stadium. So a lot of that coming up in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2, I just want to kind of go through the season in a nutshell. I've had a lot of conversations both here on the podcast and on my radio show on Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920, just about the Raiders season, where it was when I was in Costa Mesa, California, to where it is right now through 12 weeks of the regular season. Going to do that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and a lot of it's about the quarterback position. We'll jump into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. And it's never too late to jump into the season with FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Of course, I'll tell you more about them later on in the show. But off top, quarterback position is the most important position. Talked about it on Monday's show. We knew Gardner Minshew was going to be out officially for the season. He is. He's got the broken collarbone. So what's next? Well, the Raiders did, in fact, activate Aiden O'Connell. He was eligible to be activated off IR. He returned to practice. The Raiders PR put out a tweet about that on Monday afternoon. So Aiden O'Connell is part of the mix. So if he's able to go, and you'll hear from Antonio Pierce in a hot minute, there's probably a good shot. I would say 99% shot that he's going to end up being the starting quarterback on Friday, as long as he's able to go through the small things like grip the football, right, and have a way to protect the ball and obviously a way to protect himself. But we'll hear from Antonio Pierce in a quick minute. One of the other options for a quarterback for the Raiders, potentially not maybe this Friday, but just moving forward, was Daniel Jones, formerly of the Giants, who asked for his release last week. We knew he was going to clear waivers. He, in fact, did clear waivers on Monday, and so any team was available to go and sign him as a free agent. My guy Jordan Schultz from Fox Sports NFL, he's an NFL insider. He actually sent me the text and said, despite interest from the Raiders, free agent quarterback Daniel Jones has eliminated Las Vegas from consideration. Contrary to other reports, the former Giants quarterback is weighing substantial interest from multiple playoff teams and wants to join a postseason contender. That's from Jordan Schultz, Fox Sports. He's the NFL insider. Sent that over to me, put that tweet out there late on Monday. So not that I thought Daniel Jones was a good option. He was the guy that I talked about on Monday's show. I didn't think it made a whole lot of sense for the Raiders to try to go and bring him into the building, and it would take a couple weeks for him to get acclimated to the system, up to speed. But that just kind of further confirms what we already knew, was that Daniel Jones probably was not going to be an option for the Silver and Black. And to be honest, I think it makes all the sense in the world that he signs with a contender. Why not, right? Be in that building, learn something from a really good team, right? Build a little bit of culture around him, and then maybe he has an opportunity to get into some game that is not meaningful right at the end of the season, maybe get a little bit of burn there and put a little bit of film out there and ends up with another opportunity. I think it makes all the sense in the world to go to a contender, and it sounds like that's what Daniel Jones is going to do. So there's that. He is no longer in consideration for the Silver and Black. But I did want to get into some Antonio Pierce sound from Monday as we met with him at the Intermountain Health Performance Center around 11 o'clock. We'll catch up with him again on Wednesday. But a couple sound bites here, and the first one is Antonio Pierce responding to Vinny Bonsignore, who hit him with like the trifecta of questions. He asked him about Minshew, asked him about O'Connell, and then Daniel Jones as well, which obviously we know now is not part of the mix. But here's AP responding to the trifecta about all three of those quarterbacks asked by Vinny Bonsignore.
Yeah, one, Gardner Minshew will be out for the season. Two, we'll see if Aiden is good to go. He's been ramping up. And then three, any free agents, anybody to be claimed, that's third floor. So Telesco and that group is on the head of it, and obviously we'll see where that happens by the end of the day.
So there was Antonio Pierce just confirming that Minshew was definitely done for the season. O'Connell is going to be activated this week and has a chance to play on Friday if he can do the little things. And Daniel Jones and anyone else outside the building, that's a third floor thing, which means Tom Telesco and company, that's their area. Anyone that's already on the roster in the building, obviously AP is in charge of that. So with Aiden O'Connell, can he do the little things? What does he mean by that? Well, here's Antonio Pierce on what Aiden O'Connell has to do this week to show that he can go play on Friday in Arrowhead.
Well, these guys are getting in the building late today. We'll have rehab and all that stuff, so it'll be a late day for us. Really won't be able to practice this week. It'll be walkthroughs for the most part. So just seeing him, able to grip the ball, comfortable, hopefully no pain there, and just being able to be efficient. To put a player out there that's, hurting or injured still, that's not in the benefit of the player or our team.
So I think one of the biggest points that Antonio Pierce pointed out right there was the fact that they're not really doing any practices this week. And at this stage of the game and in this part of the season, practices become less and less and less and less, and especially on a short week. A lot of walkthroughs, right? And so Aiden O'Connell's not really going to have an opportunity to go out there and do a whole lot on the grass as far as really actually practice. So he's just going to have to be healthy. He's going to have to go with what he retained and what he remembers from, the offense and try to get into a rhythm as quickly as possible. Again, my gut feeling tells me he'll be the starting quarterback on Friday. I don't think Desmond Ridder is the guy that Antonio Pierce wants to go with. But we'll see based off what, the powers that be, Antonio Pierce and company, believe they see throughout the course of the week. So speaking of Desmond Ridder, what did he get to see, even though it was a short sample size when Ridder got into the game super late, going in for Gardner Minshew, who was lost to the broken collarbone? What did he see from Desmond Ridder?
Just like the rest of our team, fighting, want to be out there. When I went up to him right before he went out there, late in that 3-minute mark of the game, he's like, I got it, I'm good. So the confidence there. He's a guy that's a competitor, wants to compete. Obviously he was dealt a difficult hand. You just get thrown into the fire with no reps. But he did move the ball down the field. And, even at the end of the game, even though it didn't go our way at the end, the ball's at the 1-yard line, right? Gave us a chance to, maybe score, go to onside kick, and you never know what happens in this league.
Again, a guy that I believe is, a very good athlete. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. And the Raiders need to find who their quarterback's going to be, or if they has an opportunity to be even a backup quarterback. And I'm just not sure what Desmond Ridder has. Now, he told us in the locker room following the game he's good to go. If he needs to go on Friday, he'll be ready. But, of course, he's supposed to say that, right? If he was going to say, no, I don't think I'll be ready, then there's a problem with him. That's more of a him situation than any other situation. So wasn't surprised to hear him say he'd be ready to go, but also I was not surprised to, hear Antonio Pierce kind of hesitate to say that, yeah, there's a chance that Ridder could go on Friday as a starting quarterback. Just don't think that he's ready to be that guy and not too sure if he is that guy for the Raiders moving forward. Again, 99.9% feel good and comfortable saying that Aiden O'Connell is going to get the start coming up on Friday. One more soundbite from Antonio Pierce as he met with us at the Intermountain Health Performance Center on Monday, and it's about Dylan Lobby, who we thought was going to get in some action offensively. He didn't, but he did get in special teams-wise, and that's what, was supposed to be his specialty anyway, right? I mean, when he was drafted in the 6th round out of New Hampshire, one of the things that I liked about him is that he was a special teams dude, and I thought he was going to be able to be a special teams ace, especially in the kick return game, because he did really well with that at New Hampshire. Well, he had a big kick return, 59 yards on Sunday versus Denver, and really gave the Raiders a lot of juice, and that's how they scored their touchdown, was off of that 59-yard kick return, a big play in special teams. It was nice to see it happen. So what did Antonio Pierce, how did he feel about Dylan Lobby getting that nice kick return?
Love how he hit the hole. I mean, there was guns blazing, right? He was smoke. He was about all that smoke. Because most time on those plays, you can see either you're going to hit it full speed or you're going to get blasted, right? And he wasn't flinching, he didn't blink. I just wish he had one more little cut in him, take it back across the grain. But what I was most excited about was the way the team responded. I mean, to see all those guys chase him in the end zone, yeah, I get it was a 50-yard return, but that was his first time touching the ball since the last time he fumbled. And to me, that was very encouraging to see the players respond that way and the way he responded on his first carry since then.
That was really cool. It really was. And I put it in the same category as a basketball player that just needs to see one go through the rim. Right, just need to get a little bit of confidence. And it's funny, on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium while I was doing the pregame show, myself and Ryan Hogue, former Raiders wide receiver, I had my iPad up and I was watching my son, Lil Q, play at Portland State, him and his team, and they had been stinking it up. I mean, straight up. They had lost the first 2 games of a 3-game tournament that they were playing, and they were terrible. And he'll tell you that they were playing bad. They were getting skunked. And so this third game is starting to, look like it's starting to get away from them, and all of a sudden they go on a run. Well, long story short, they win the game, and he has a pretty good game. Actually, he had a really good game, especially off of the 2 games he had before that. So, again, it was that confidence. Like, you have to see some positive. You have to see something go through the rim. It's like getting to the free throw line, and you see it go through a couple times. Your confidence is up. So I felt like after that game on Sunday for Lil Q, his confidence was up. His team's confidence was up. They salvaged a 3-game tournament by at least winning 1 game. Well, Dylan Lobby having that big punt return, or kick return, I should say, for 59 yards and setting the team up and seeing them all go down and celebrate with them and really, pumped up for him. I think that was a big confidence booster for him. And seeing him in the locker room following the game, you could see that he's got, I'm not saying he lost his confidence, but he gained confidence by that big play. I do think that was massive for him and his confidence moving forward as a rookie. Saying the last time that we remember Dylan Lobby with the ball in his hands, he fumbled versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that was a huge positive in the right direction for another young guy that's seeing some action, and would not be shocked to see him see a lot more action down the stretch this season, since, well, the Raiders have been dealing with so much, injuries and had so many young guys in the mix. It's just kind of what it is. It's par for the course. So expect to see more from Dylan Lobby moving forward, but that was a big positive on Sunday. So that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2, just kind of want to, summarize the Raiders season in a nutshell. What it was when I was in Costa Mesa, California, to what it is right now as they get ready for Week 13. That's coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple of great sponsors here on the Locked On Raiders podcast, including Skylight Frames. Do you struggle to find the perfect gift during the holidays? Maybe gifting isn't your love language, right? You overthink it and wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. Or maybe you do like me and just give money, right? Or just ask, look, what do you want? Let me just get you what you want so I don't mess this thing up. Well, maybe you don't want to do that. You could be buying for someone who has everything or just seems like, well, they're unpleasable. And, no matter what, they're going to find something wrong with it. Well, I'll tell you that. We've got the perfect gift for you. That's Skylight Frame. It's a touchscreen digital photo frame for your family, and they will love it. Upload thousands, and I mean thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. You can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription is required. So right now, what do you have to do to get your hands on it? Well, it's a special limited time offer for all listeners of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's Skylight, SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off your purchase now. Again, it's skylightframe.com/NFL. One more time. SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off a Skylight Frame at skylightframe.com/NFL. I also want to tell you about our good friends and title sponsor of this show, FanDuel. It is never too late. And when I mean never too late to jump into action on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, all new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app will give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more of FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Wanted to take a minute here to just kind of summarize where this season has been. And I touched on it a little bit on Monday's show during segment number 3, calls and texts, but just kind of wanted to summarize it and really take a step back. And I think that the call and text that I got on for Monday's show, I think that really kind of got the ball rolling to, man, this season has been a roller coaster. And the one thing I could say, first as a Raider fan, first and foremost, and now a guy that talks about him every day on the radio and obviously does the podcast each and every day, it is never dull with this team. There's never a dull moment. They could be 9-2 or they could be 2-9, and there's always something going on. Like, there is never a time when there's not a conversation about the Raiders. Good, bad, or ugly, there's always some kind of conversation, always something going on. Now, hopefully, sooner rather than later, what's going on is going to be good, positive, lots of wins, right? Playoff appearances, all that good stuff. That's where I want to go. That's what I'm hoping that we can start talking about sooner rather than later. But here we are talking about what this season, 2024, has basically been in a nutshell. So when I'm in Costa Mesa, California, and I'm seeing this team compete, yes, the offense was struggling. There's no doubt about that. But the defense was dominant and had so many players. And it's funny, I remember when the 53-man roster came out and we looked at it and we analyzed it and we break it down because that's what we do. I'm looking at, man, the defensive line is so deep. It's like, man, the linebackers are so deep. Man, the corners, they're not really deep, but they've got some dogs, right? I mean, look at the safeties. There was a lot of different positions that we looked at and liked, and then said, man, look, Gardner Minshew has weapons that he's never had before, from Brock Bowers to Big Mike to Jacoby Myers, obviously Devontae Adams. It's got a running back that did phenomenal the last 4 games of the season in Zamir White. Also got a great number 2 in Alexander Madison, who's been in this system his whole career, right? Everyone who runs in this system. James Craig is coming over from the 49ers as the offensive line coach, and they always have success running the ball no matter who's running the rock, right? I mean, just there were so many different things to get excited about and fired up about, and storylines that we talked about on this fine program, the Locked On Raiders podcast, each and every day, to where we are right now, getting ready for Week 13, the Kansas City Chiefs, Black Friday. First of all, think about the guys that are out. Malcolm Kuntz never made it to the season, right? He was the guy that I actually was counting on to be the big-time player, the guy that was going to have the best season on the defense. I thought with the addition of Christian Wilkins, obviously the attention Max Crosby always gets, Malcolm Kuntz was going to, be in store for not only a huge season, but a huge payday, right? He came on strong in the second half of the season last year, had 8 sacks and 3 strip sacks, or 9 sacks. 8 sacks and 3 strip sacks in the second half of the season in the last 9 games. Right, he was a big-time reason why the defense was as dominant as was. He was going to have a whole season to be able to put that together and really build off that. He was going to be a monster. I mentioned Christian Wilkins. He was the big free agent get. He was going to be that dominant dude in the defensive tackle spot that the Raiders haven't had since like Darrell Russell and Chester McLaughlin, right? Guys like that, right? Grady Jackson, dudes like that were Tommy Kelly's, right? Guys like that. It's been a long time since those names have gone through those doors, representing the silver and black. So he was supposed to be that guy. Obviously, he went on IR. Marcus Epps never has big stats, never has big numbers, but he's the quarterback of the defense at the back end. He tore his ACL, making Trayvon Merrick slide into more of a leadership role, which I think he's done a good job with. But, that wasn't what it was designed to look like. Marcus Epps is supposed to be that guy. Jacorian Bennett was having a phenomenal training camp, was having a phenomenal season, one of the better corners in the league, especially on third down. He was showing up. He was, just taking on the best corners. I mean, look, you saw what he was able to do against Jamar Chase, right, against Cincinnati right before the bye. And you see what every other corner in the league has done against Jamar Chase. They haven't done very well, but Jacorian Bennett held it down, really limited him with what he was able to do, and has done that all year long. We identified that in training camp. That was one of the guys I was most excited about. He's been out now. He left the game, 2 weeks ago against Miami. He left the game early with the shoulder injury, didn't play on Sunday versus Denver Broncos, so he's out. Linebacker position, Divine Diablo missed some weeks. He came back. You saw the difference it was. A lot of folks thought, Divine Diablo, he's not a really big loss. Got Tommy Eichenberg. Got, not Madison. That's Alexander. Matterson. No, what's his name? Now I forgot his name. Luke Madison. or Luke Madison. Yeah, Luke. Yeah, Masterson. Man, there it is. Luke Masterson. It's too many M's. Right? So Luke Masterson, he could slide in and be that guy, but you saw the difference when Divine Diablo was out. You saw how big of a difference it was. Max missed the game, right? And that's just a couple of the injuries on defense, right? How about looking on the offensive side of things? Colton Miller came into the season banged up, right? He didn't round into form until, week 5? Right, and he's still trying to get back to the Colton Miller that we all remember. But Andre James, the center, he's been out for some weeks now. Munford was supposed to be the starting right tackle. He went down in training camp, right? And DJ Glaze, to his credit, has done the best he could. But Thayer Munford, it was supposed to be his spot. That's what he told us, right? And he was going to be the starting right tackle. They didn't need to go draft one because he was going to be the guy. Well, he hasn't been the guy. He's shown that availability is not something for him. He's not going to be able to do that consistently. So, he was out of the lineup for a while, and now he's just used sparingly. Alexander Madison, who's actually been the offensive MVP outside of Brock Bowers, he misses last week against Denver. He's got the ankle injury, and he's a guy that, again, has actually had the most production from the running back room, and that's not saying a whole lot because they haven't had any real production. Zamir White, it was supposed to be his time to shine. Josh Jacobs is in Green Bay, so now it's the Zamir White show. It's been a no-show. That hasn't happened, right? Even though that was a guy that was counted on to do the heavy lifting. Zeus was going to be the guy. Remember how good he looked? He had the Greek god pictures, right? Remember all the social media pictures that we saw where it looked like he had just built his body into this Derrick Henry-like type guy? Now, he's been everything but that guy, right? So that's unfortunate. He hasn't been – he's been banged up quite a bit. Big Michael Mayer, he left the team in week 3 because of personal injuries, didn't return till – or personal issues, I should say, situation. He left the team in week 3, didn't return till week 11. So he's still trying to knock off some of the rust, but that's, 2 months that he was gone from the team. Just, again, personal situation, which is fine, but he wasn't there, obviously. Remember, all we heard about was 12 personnel, and Harrison Bryant did his best to fill the void, but Harrison Bryant's not Big Mike. Big Mike was one of the best tight ends in college football while he was at Notre Dame. Brock Bowers, one of the best tight ends at Georgia, and he's been all that, but he didn't have his running buddy, Brock Bowers, or he didn't have his running buddy, Big Mike, Michael Mayer, for a long time. So now he's back trying to get acclimated. Oh, by the way, Devontae Adams, you may have heard of him, really good wide receiver. He never played with the Raiders after their week 3 loss to Carolina. After they lost that game to Carolina, never played again. And now he's in New York with that fantastic football team that's only won one more game than the Raiders. So there's that, right? But, still, he's a hell of a wide receiver, right? He was wide receiver number 1. So all the weapons that Minshew was going to have, Devontae, Jacoby, Big Mike, obviously Brock Bowers, right? You're going to have this run game. All Gardner Minshew was going to be tasked with doing is not screw it up. Right? Just get the ball to the playmakers. Defense was going to be dominant. Run game was going to be dominant. And all you had to do from the quarterback position was be complimentary. Well, that didn't work. Oh, by the way, Jacoby Myers missed a few weeks with an ankle sprain as well, with an ankle issue. Now he's back. He's the second leading wide receiver or leading receiver on the team. Obviously, Brock Bowers is number 1 with 700-plus yards, and Jacoby has over 500 after his 100-yard performance on Sunday, which, that's great, because they're going to start trying to take away Brock Bowers, so Jacoby's going to have to step up, which I definitely believe he can. And now, oh, by the way, the quarterback position. Minshew started the season. He gets sat down for O'Connell. O'Connell hits IR with a broken thumb. Minshew comes back in. Minshew's out for the season with a broken collarbone. So now O'Connell, we're all assuming he's going to be back and ready to go on Friday against Kansas City. But you claimed a quarterback, Desmond Ridder, off of the Cardinals practice squad. He might be forced into action if O'Connell can't go. Minshew's done. All that has happened through, 11 games. And even before 11 games, because Kuntz went down before the first game of the season. And again, I'm not trying to use this as excuses. I'm not trying to say this is why AP should get another year. I'm just throwing that out there as food for thought. I'm just putting it out there so everyone thinks and knows what was going on and what has happened. Oh, those are just the players. How about this? The Raiders have had, 5 or 6 different versions of the offensive line, right? Because of injury or just lack of production and good play. So now this week, if they stick with the same starting 5, Colton Miller, Jordan Meredith, who's been great, right? He wasn't expected to be great. He's been great. JPJ at the center position, Dylan Parham at the right guard position, and DJ Glaze at the right tackle. That'll be 3 weeks in a row with the same starting offensive line? Woo! That'll be like the first time this season that's happened. And that's, again, going into week 13, game 12. So that's an issue. AP's already on his second offensive coordinator. Now that's 100% on him. 100% on him because he hired Luke Getsy and had to fire Luke Getsy because he wasn't good. But remember, Luke Getsy was option 2 as the offensive coordinator. Maybe not even option 2, but he's what he got. Remember, he was set to hire Cliff Kingsbury. I remember that Friday doing my radio show, getting the news. Aaron Wilson out of Houston had sent me the text. Hey, man, Cliff Kingsbury is about to be the coach. We got Aaron Wilson on the show immediately to talk about it. He's going to be the OC. I'm sitting in the barbershop the next Saturday morning just to get the tweet. Kingsbury has pulled himself out of the Las Vegas Raiders offensive coordinator conversation. Whoa, what? He did what? Wait, what do you mean? So he was option 1, didn't get him. Getsy was option 2 or lower, got him, fired him. So now they're on to Scott Turner. And again, that's 100% on AP because he hired him. He picked the coaches. So there's that. On their second offensive line coach now. Right, and I could say that that's on AP as well because he hired Luke Getsy, who turned around and hired James Craig to be the offensive line coach. Now they're up to Joe Philbin as the interim offensive line coach. So, again, more changing. But with the coaching staff, I'll put that 100% on AP because he hired these guys. He put them all in place or allowed other coaches to hire them. He's got a lot of coaches on the staff. I don't know if they need to cut that back a little bit. I like what I've seen the last 2 weeks with Rob Ryan being on the sideline as opposed to being in the booth, who AP told me when I asked him about him, Rob Ryan went to him and said, I could be more effective and help you more by being on the sideline with a headset as opposed to being in the booth doing charts. So, okay, at least he's willing to do other things. But again, just so much change, so much difference, so much what is supposed to look like to what it is looking like. And again, none of that might matter at the end of the day. As Antonio Pierce says all the time, it's a production-based business. If you don't produce, you'll be out of business. That could happen at the end of the season. Mark Davis, Tom Brady, the powers that be could say, hey, you know what? I know that you had a tough road to hoe, but it's just not going to work. We're going to move on. And that's within their rights. Or they might say, that was a lot that he had to overcome in his first year as a full-time head coach, by the way, without a quarterback, without a real deal quarterback that he wanted, that he was expecting to be able to go get and wanted Jaden Daniels. And we see how good he is in D.C. No shock that he wanted Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. It's a pretty good pairing, even though Kingsbury starts to fade in the second half of the season. But pretty good pairing so far in D.C. I would take the issues that they have going on right now as opposed to the issues that the Raiders have going on right now. But again, that's just me. So again, just wanted to summarize it. Don't want anyone to think this is an excuse for anyone. I just want to put it out there so you can at least have food for thought of what's going on with this team so far, from Costa Mesa in training camp, where everything was rainbows and puppy dogs and cool weather, to where it is right now, 2-9, getting ready for post-Thanksgiving football in Arrowhead Stadium on Black Friday. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts are next as we close out the show. 707-654-4693. We'll get right to that after I tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, which is Hillsdale College. And time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How could you spend your time wisely to improve yourself is probably the most important thing, right? Well, our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, hear me well, 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, communism. They got the Great American Story, A Land of Hope, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and many, many more. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Maybe school is in your agenda. Maybe school is something that's been in the back of your mind and you think, you know what, I need to deep dive back into school. Perfect. Right now, go to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It doesn't get any better than that. And it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Again, hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Derek from Hemet. He's calling to talk about the job AP is doing with what he is working with. And even though the results are not being there and have not been there as they're 2-9, just kind of backs up what I'm saying and summarizing this season for the Raiders.
Q, Derek from Hemet here. I just wanted to call really to kind of back up what you're saying about AP and the fact that he is really doing, honestly, I know everyone's not on the AP train, but honestly I am, man. I agree with you there's something to be said about how he's still getting effort out of third and fourth string guys and them to play their asses off. There is something to be said about that. That is a leader, that is a coach. At the end of the day, yeah, I understand that we're 2-9. Or 9-2, whatever. I understand that. But, I mean, look at the pieces. Look at the talent. Look at what we're working with. At this point in the season, he never had a quarterback for the season. Never. Honestly, he never had an O-line either. The most structured part of this team going into the season was the defense. And honestly, I'm not going to take his stripes for not having all the tools necessary to get the job done. Now, let's say if we do a total revamp, we get the quarterback, we start putting pieces where they need to, and they start struggling next year, then we need to start thinking about, what's our next step and maybe moving away from AP. But I feel like AP is that guy who can get the job done. We just got to give him the right tools to execute. And, I mean, like I said, I'm excited from what I'm seeing. Fourth, first string guys are playing their heart out. I mean, no matter how bad the season's going, the guys are still playing. And honestly, that's what Raiders are. You know, win or lose, ride or die, Raider for life, you know? And that's where I grew up. You know, that's how I grew up. So they're doing that right now. And, you know, all the best to the future, and things are looking good. Draft order looks good. Quarterback's looking decent. Hopefully we can go get one. All right, Q, Dirk from Emmett. I'm out.
Derek, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. And honestly, that was the point, right? I want people to understand what this team was supposed to look like and what it looks like, and the cast and characters. As I was going through the box score and just the participation, how many snaps, who had this, that, and the other, like there was a couple names that I had to look at and do a double take and say, wait, who is that again? Who is that? Oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, forgot about him. Right? I mean, it's just certain guys you just realize that the talent level is not there, and you know injuries happen across the league. But man, this just seems like this has been just a monster season for injuries for the Silver and Black. And the good thing about that, if you're looking for a silver lining, normally when you have one season where you have a ton of injuries, the next season is not exactly like that. So I guess that's the hope that I have right there, that they got all these injuries out of their way this season, and next season it won't look like this. I mean, hell, Max told us in the locker room following the game on Sunday that he's feeling his best that he's felt in a long time. He got injured week 2, almost the last play. I think it was the last play of the game, a high ankle sprain he suffered at Baltimore. That was week 2. It is going into week 13, and he's finally feeling really good. And he hasn't had a sack in 4 games. He told us that as well. Even though he feels like he's rushing at his best right now, he hasn't had a sack. He's got some TFL, some tackles for loss, but no sacks. He's trying to, you know, and they come in bunches, and he's trying to get home. So there's that. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from AJ from AZ. That's Arizona. He said, what it do, Q? AJ from AZ just wanted to say after the game, I ain't really mad about or feel any type of way at this point. I'm just riding the wave till the draft season. However, I think our defense looked decently better than before for the most part till the end. But definitely offensively, that quarterback and running back situation got to get solved quick. I did catch some college games this weekend. I just got to say I'm cool with either Sanders or Ward as quarterback for the Raiders, both also being exciting. Also, I just want to mention this. We definitely got to hit a running back in the draft. And I don't know how it'll play out, and I don't know if you keep up with Arizona State, but man, Cam Scatterboo is a dog for sure. Through his whole college career, dude has always inclined and been a beast. I'm just saying he ain't on the draft boards as of yet for some reason, but if he goes undrafted, he'll be a hidden gem, kind of how Eckler was when the Chargers first got him. Anyways, have a blessed week. Happy early Thanksgiving. Love Raider Nation. Until next time. That's AJ from AZ. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. And yeah, I mean, Sanders and Ward are obviously QB1 and QB2, and there's not a big gap between them. They both have a lot of talent. They both have warts. So they're either way, they're going to have to go in there and work. I don't expect any quarterback that the Raiders draft to go out there and play right away. I don't think he'll start day one. I think he'll be eased into action. I'm okay with that. I absolutely am, especially if you get the right guy and you want to make sure you set him up for success. Go ahead and let him sit for a minute. I'm cool with that. As far as the running back goes, I agree 100% that the Raiders need to get a big-time running back. They had one. He's doing his thing in Green Bay. That's for another day, right? That obviously costs a lot of money. Ashton Genty is fantastic from Boise State. There's Devin Neal from Kansas, who Colorado was humbled by on Saturday. But you bring up Cam Scatterboo, and he is a dog. He is an absolute dude. I don't know where his draft stock is. Next time I talk to one of the guys like Matt Miller or Mel Kiper Jr. or any of those guys, if I get Daniel Jeremiah, I probably won't get him for a while because he's on the call for a Chargers game. So it's probably going to be a while they're playing. But next time I get a chance to talk to, some kind of draft guru or whatever the case may be, I'll definitely ask him about Scatterboo. And Arizona State, shout out to them. Having a heck of a season, aren't they? Man, shout out to them. And I'm sure that, speaking of Scatterboo, I bet you AP knows all about him, right, with his time at Arizona State. So, yeah, there's no doubt. Matter of fact, next time I talk to Herm Edwards, there's a good chance I'll talk to Herm sooner than probably any of those other guys. So I'll ask him about Scatterboo and what he thinks about him. But that definitely could be a guy that the Raiders focus in on. The one thing I do know is I want to see some more from Sincere McCormick. He only carried the rock 5 times for 33 yards on Sunday. But, man, he had some strong downhill running. And at UTSA, he went over 1,400 yards and had double-digit touchdowns 2 years in a row, his sophomore and his junior season. Even his freshman year, he had over 900 yards rushing, about 8 touchdowns. That dude could go. The one problem with him is he's been riddled with injuries since he's been in the National Football League. But AP said on Monday he's earned more snaps, so we'll definitely see him. There's no doubt about that. You'll see Sincere McCormick out there on Friday, and hopefully maybe the Raiders can get some form of a run game going, because as we know, they haven't as of yet. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Caesar, a.k.a. Mr. Cheese from Sacramento, California. He's calling to talk about the loss of the Broncos on Sunday and share his thoughts. Here he is, Mr. Cheese from Sacktown.
Hey, Q. This is Caesar. You can just refer to me as Mr. Cheese from Sacramento, formerly from Santa Cruz, California. And I just want to just chime in on this disappointing loss from the Raiders against the Denver Broncos. And, man, it's just disappointing. I wasn't expecting really a win, but just, there was just a small hope of, like, maybe they can keep it close and possibly squeak it out, but it is what it is. The Raiders, they just seem to just shoot themselves in the foot every time that they have an opportunity to either tie the game or even get a chance to even put themselves to even possibly win the game. So I just think that going forward with the rest of the season, man, they just gotta just give either Ritter or if O'Connell's available to play, just give one of those two guys just an opportunity just to play, because I think Raider Nation is done seeing Gardner Minshew. I'm just upset the fact that we've been dealing with quarterback play these last 2.5 years or 2.5 seasons or what now, dealing with quarterbacks who can barely throw the ball about 10 yards. Man, they can't even complete a 5-yard pass at this point. So hopefully we can see better quarterback play. The positive that I can see from the Raiders and just going forward is the fact that they have foundational pieces in play. They got some young linemen that are there that, I mean, they've struggled here and there, but honestly, I see a lot of upside with them. They got good tight end play. So they have some pieces there. It's just ultimately what's holding them back is just the quarterback play. And in addition, just the coaching in general. I don't know how Denver's receivers can just be wide open. Seems to be almost every play. I'm not sure if that's the DB coach or linebackers coach, defensive coordinator, or just all around. But, man, come on. How are you going to leave a guy 10 yards wide open? It seems like almost every play. But, it is what it is. But hopefully the Raiders can improve on. Honestly, I'm looking forward to this year's draft. Hopefully they can get their quarterback. But I'm already kind of prepared with the Raiders being the Raiders, getting someone different. So if they can get a playmaker, great. But, man, we just need a quarterback that can at least throw 10 yards, please. All right, Q. Great listening to you. And go Raiders.
Thanks so much for the call. Well, you won't have to see Minshew anymore. He did definitely break his collarbone. That was something that was confirmed late on Sunday. And then also on Monday, Antonio Pierce announced that he was done for the season. So it's going to be the O'Connell and Ritter show unless the Raiders go out outside the building and make a move. Daniel Jones is now out of the equation, so I don't know where they would go. But, O'Connell and Ritter are probably, as far as I'm concerned, with the rest of the season, I'm sure that they can get the silver and black through the season. I don't think that they need to go out and waste money and bring a guy in that's only going to play in a couple of games. And, who knows what the Raiders are going to be looking like at that stage of the game. So I don't think that they need to go out and do anything. I think they're fine with O'Connell. I think they're fine with Ritter. And even if they need to bring up Carter Bradley from the practice squad, they could do that as well. So, if they thought about Daniel Jones, which according to Jordan Schultz from Fox NFL Insider, as he sent me the text and the tweet, apparently they were interested in him, but I guess that Daniel Jones has eliminated them from the conversation. But thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. It's good to hear from you. DK Richardson was having a bad day, right? He was thrown into the fire. That was, not easy for him. But he did the very best he could, right? He was doing everything he could just not to get burned. So, I think that him getting that reps and those experience, though, that is going to go a long way. Again, thanks so much for the call. Up next, got a text from Raider Dan. It's a quick one. He said, "What up, Q? Raider Dan from Live Oak. I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate for this, but I'll take a moral victory. I don't believe in tanking. I still want to see them win. At the end of the day, it's our entertainment. I just want to be entertained. LOL. Thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good work." That's Raider Dan. I don't think you'll get any hate for that, right? I don't believe in tanking either. And I know the players don't believe in tanking. I'll never root for the team to lose. But as I had a coach tell me one time, Scott Stewart, as a matter of fact, from Temple High School, he said, as much as I want to win every game, we lost this one. And, based off of our seeding now, not necessarily the worst thing. So, I mean, there's other ways to look at it. Like when I walked out of the stadium on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium, of course, I want the Raiders to win. But knowing that they didn't just, get ran out of the building. They didn't look like a shell of themselves. They didn't look like a team that was laying down. They went out there and gave the good fight. Matter of fact, they dominated, especially in the first half of the game. They just couldn't convert in the red zone. They had a lot of field goals as opposed to touchdowns. So I felt good about their performance, especially everything I said in segment number 2, knowing that what they were dealing with and knowing who was out there. I actually felt good. I saw Tyree Wilson out there performing. That made me feel good. Saw obviously Max out there trying to do everything he could. That made me feel good. D-Cam thrown into the fire, but he was competing. Jack Jones had a banged up back, but he was competing, right? Devon Diablo, A.J. Cole, right? Daniel Carlson, right? They're pulling out special teams plays. Like, there was no quit, right? Tom McMahon, the special teams coordinator, he didn't even coach on Sunday, and his backup, the assistant special teams coordinator, was out there working his tail off. Rob Ryan is on the sideline, pumped up, juiced up, giving the guys daps when they're coming off the field after big plays. Like, there was no quit. There was no lack of energy from none of those dudes. And really the only time this year I've seen something that really bothered me when it came to effort or intensity was against Carolina week 3. After that, I have not seen a lack of effort. That's for sure. So, again, moral victories, everyone hates them. It's all about wins and losses, and right now the Raiders have a lot more losses than they have wins, but I sure didn't see any quit, and it wasn't one of those when I left the stadium and I was exhausted because, whatever the product I just saw on the field put me to sleep. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. That's all I got time for on today's show. Got a call from Raider Izzy that we'll get tomorrow. Got a couple more texts that I want to get to as well. Plus, we'll start officially turning the page to the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, it's a short week for the team. They'll be back in action on Friday against the Chiefs. So on Thursday, on Thanksgiving morning, we'll have the crossover edition, Chiefs and Raiders. So that'll be a nice preview for you to digest with your Thanksgiving dinner before that you see the game on Friday. Of course, we'll have keys to victory as well. We're going to do everything we do normally, right? We'll keep this party rolling. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's going to be on the call for, he's going to be part of the Amazon Prime broadcast. They're part of the what the Raiders and Chiefs will be doing on Friday. I'm supposed to be talking to him in the next day or so maybe I'll be able to bring that conversation to the show. But we're going to keep this party rolling, this electric circus, like my man Freddie Coleman from ESPN likes to say. So we'll keep it going, and we'll be back tomorrow, Raider Nation. You know how we do. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.